And you're listening to the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. It's Donald Kavanagh standing in for Greg, and we're in the second hour of the programme already. And time seems to move at a different pace when you're in this studio, when the discussion is interesting, and that's going to continue to be the case for the foreseeable future. We're joined in studio by Michelle McKenna, and Michelle is a Donegal spokesperson for Childminding Ireland. Michelle, good morning to you.
Good morning, Donald.
Michelle, you're a childminder in Buncrana. You have been for 20 years, and you're registered with TUSLA, but there are many childminders who aren't, and that's something you want to see addressed.
Yeah, I have been, childminding now for 20 years. In Buncrana, I run my own business, but I also am involved with Childminding Ireland. Now, Childminding Ireland represent 700 childminders in the country. 7 of those are based in Donegal. We have 35,000 childminders in Ireland and 88,000 kids. But there is no system at the minute for a lot of those childminders, because to be TULSA registered you have to be minding 4 or more kids. What I found myself was that a lot of childminders are approaching myself or ringing me up, asking me what can they get, like can they get anything from the government schemes or any training or anything, and at the minute they're not entitled to that because there's no system for them.
But presumably it's a double-edged sword. If you're registered with TUSLA, yes, you qualify for certain government schemes, but I'm sure you also are subject to the most rigorous regulations in terms of what you must have in your own premises and in your own business. And I'm sure that's not an easy thing to ensure you comply with.
Yes, that's true, Donald. This is one of the things that we're changing about. We have been lobbying for this for years now through Childminding Ireland. And what we have done is Minister Sapone 2 years ago, 2016, have set up a working group which Childminding Ireland chaired, and she has established now that there is a need to change the childminding sector in Ireland. So what we've decided now is that because she's going to make these changes by the end of the year, they have already introduced 20 proposals for the changes. By the end of the year, they want to implement them proposals, but we are now she wants us all to set up a wee network in every county. Yeah. So this is what this is about today. Donald, we are setting up under Childminding Ireland, with me being a spokesperson, tomorrow night in the Station House in Letterkenny at 7:30. What we want is all childminders to come along, whether you're just minding 1 child, 2 child, whether you're a granny or granda, just to come along. And it's like a very informal kind of a grouping, and it's just have a cup of tea and a chat, because there's no support out there for just to find out exactly different issues. You're dealing with kids, you're dealing with parents, you're dealing with the systems, and a lot of childminders want something for them. And what we're going to try and do now is try and relay back any information. A lot of these childminders don't want to go to anybody official, so with the likes of myself and other childminders in Donegal, they're talking to us and we're feeding information back to what they want. And Minister Sapone says she will take all views on board by the end of the year, and hopefully we'll have new regulations for ourselves. And
that is an interesting point, because I'm sure there's a lot of childminders out there, particularly relatives or friends of people. They're not paying tax, they're not registered for tax, they're looking after children, they're getting a couple of quid there. It's very much an informal arrangement. I mean, some people would claim, it's the black economy. So it may be, but it's out there and it's very prevalent. A lot of people, I suspect, might be even nervous about going to a meeting like that, because in a sense they'll be afraid. They're seeing, you're childminding, that means I may have to start paying tax, that means I may have to start getting inspected and things like that. Not that it's just for a moment that anyone is anything less than absolutely scrupulous in looking after their children, but there are people looking after children that aren't in any way regulated and aren't in any way paying tax, and they might be nervous about coming to a meeting like that because they don't want that to change.
Yeah, well, that's why we want to try and make this informal as possible, just like a workshop, and we're hoping to do this once a month. A lot of childminders don't realise is that there's different incentives out there. Like the government have a scheme there, like a childminder can be minding children and her first 15,000 is tax free. And not a lot of childminders are earning that, only minding 1 kid, for very little money. So, there's a lot of different incentives out there. That's what this is about. So it's to get together, chat about what's there. The likes of myself and other childminders who are in it for years, like myself, will know the different things that are out there. What we're trying to do is just encourage, because these people are contacting myself. So I thought if we had a group of us together, we can talk about it, find out what's out there for them, and see how it goes. So hopefully, like I say, the Minister Sapone wants this kind of set up in every county, and it's just really, it's kind of an informal, very informal get together. There's no officials are going to be there. It's just myself and a few other childminders.
Do you see this becoming something more? Do you see this perhaps as a pathway to a graded registration where someone that does look after 1 or 2 children on a part-time basis will have a form of registration and will have a way of complying with regulations that isn't necessarily as stringent as something for someone looking after 4 or 5 plus children on a full-time basis.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping for, because there's lots of childminders that want to be in something formal, like they are minding 1 or 2 kids and they want to be in a formal system and they want to be entitled to enter the schemes because parents are looking for it. So that's the plan, like, is to get some kind of a system there that will cover the childminders that are minding 3 or less kids.
So it's on in the Station House tomorrow night in Letterkenny. It's 7:30, and you'd be encouraging everyone really to come. Anyone that's doing any childminding at all. Anybody,
granny, grandas, aunts, uncles, anybody at all. Whether you're just minding 1 kid, 2 kids, whatever. Just come along and find out what's. It's just like a support group, Donald, really.
And in terms of the incentives that are out there, it is your belief that perhaps some people, when they actually see what's there and they actually do the sums in their head, they might think, well, maybe actually it would be worth my while getting registered and getting properly onto the rungs of this ladder. It could be to my benefit.
Yeah, definitely. Like I've helped a good few childminders out in my own area and I've shown, and they've come back to me and said that it was worth their while, like, and they didn't realise what was out there. So it's just, I think we're trying to get out of the way of, don't be afraid to come forward, don't be afraid, like there's loads of things there, and there is, like, you're going to have the sector that don't want to have anything, they just don't want to be involved in anything like that at all, but then there's loads of ones then that do. So that's what we're kind of, like, we're trying to cover all childminders, like whether you're a granny or a granda or whatever. So it's just like an informal meeting, and by the end of the year we're hoping to have a bit of feedback back to the government and let them come out with their new regulations for childminders, and hopefully they'll take in all childminders, whether you're minding 1 or 5.
A question that I find it is, what is the difference between a childminder and a creche? When does a childminder become the owner operator effectively of a creche? What's the basic difference?
Well, a childminder offers a home from home based childcare, where a creche is like, yourself, they've got the big building, got the different rooms and all the children are different age groups and different rooms or whatever. I suppose lots of people like childminders because they have siblings and they're allowed to mix, and and it's just more home based. So like you're going out to the post office or whatever, you're going to the shop, or it's just more kind of, me personally, like I would just mammy them like my own kids, like, sort of thing. So a lot of parents like that, just there's loads of choices out there now for parents, so it's whatever they want themselves.
But presumably because you registered, you will have to meet regulations with regards to provision of bathroom spaces and so on and so forth. It's not just a matter of you take them into your house and treat them like your own kids.
No, at the minute the childminders regulations are the same as creches and play schools, so that's what we're trying to change now, to kind of change them regulations to be more suitable for home-based childcare.
So it should be possible then, and that's maybe what I was driving at when I spoke about the distinction, that there is obviously a distinction in the eyes of the person who's doing the job. There isn't necessarily a distinction in the eyes of the regulations.
Yeah, well, that's what Minister Sapone's looking at the minute, so she's took all that on board and she is going to make changes by the end of the year, so hopefully that will work for everyone.
Well, the caller says, with regards to childminding and creches and the cost, I hear a lot of mothers complaining about the cost of childcare. I understand it's expensive, we have to pay it. There's a lot of people would pay more to change their car every few years, and they don't complain about that, and they ask which is more precious, your car or your child. Well, obviously the answer to that is your child, but it is costly, but it is necessary, and it's a noble profession and a hugely important one, because you're looking after what is absolutely people's most precious thing. When push comes to shove, our children are our most precious asset. Asset's the wrong word, but our children are so precious to us, and the fact that we entrust our children to people like you, we want to know that the childminders we're entrusting our children to, are impeccably trained and impeccably, suited to do the job, and I've no doubt they are. Michelle, thanks so much indeed for speaking to us this morning.
Thank you, Donald. Thank you very much.
And that meeting at Station House Hotel, Letterkenny, tomorrow 7:30.
7:30.
You don't need any people pre-registering.
No,
just
and
turn
it's
up
all
on the
free,
night.
and a cup of tea as well will be available.
Okay, Michelle, thank you.
Thank you, Donald.